Well, good afternoon and happy Monday, everybody. My name is Jason Flame, and welcome to Master Motivation for this week. Our guest, none other than Sensei Fariborz. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Jason. How are you? Good to see you, man.
It's good to see you as well. Listen, guys, you're probably watching this later because normally we would stream this live on Facebook. And today, on October 4th, Facebook is having a glitch. And as I said to Sensei Fariborz, I said, it might be a nice break from social media and Facebook today. I think it might bring a little bit more about why this whole video was actually created. And I didn't tell you this before, but the reason that I created this video was back at the end of 2020. I was sitting down writing my goals for 2021 and what I wanted to do to make a difference this year. And I thought to myself, as I scroll through Facebook and Instagram and social media in general, sometimes there's just a lot of negativity. And I said, what could I do to add a little bit more positivity? And I had a fitness group that we were doing and a lot of motivational quotes and suggestions for workouts. And I said, well, let's change this group to Master Motivation and let's interview some guests that I believe are an inspiration and people that have a lot of positive energy. And as we can see right behind you, you have your a quote that says "See the good," and I absolutely love that because I would love to see the good on Facebook so much, and I think we always get what we're looking for, though. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think this was definitely a sign from the above, whoever that happens to be. That we all need a little. I play music. I'm learning how to play music. But I'm learning that um, one of the greatest pieces into a music is the pause. And everybody's concerned about notes, whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, how to put them together. But what really makes music beautiful is the pause. If there's enough pauses and how long they are is what makes the music beautiful. That's why it's so hard to listen to like heavy metal because it's always it's always there's no pause. But versus classical music, who has a little bit more, kind of into it, and the ballad and all that stuff. So maybe this is a good little pause for everyone to to take a little break and look around and just be mindful. But I tell you, I'm going to tell you experience that I had and confess one of my own sins to you. I think first it happened to all the three of my kids, but my first one happened to Layla, which was probably about 2 years ago, where I'm no longer married, but when I was married, my ex called me and said Layla's not doing good. She's freaking out. There's something going on. We're gonna take her in. So I rush home and I see she's hysterical. So I'm like, oh, okay, we call 911, whatever. So I finally I go, hey, what happened? And my ex says, well, she broke her phone. And I said, what? And I said, what? Like, tell me again. She goes, yeah, she dropped the phone. I'm broke it. And the way physically her body was amazing to me. And that was a big shock because I changed some of my stuff on my own phone, the TikTok and the Instagram or whatever, and I gave it to her and she was fine. And that was a big eye opener for me to be able to. And this is not just, I'm sure it's just not me, right? Because our deepest, darkest secrets is usually the most general, but then it happened, I never forget with my son. I remember coming home and, I was not in the best of the moods, so my ex said to my son, hey, why don't you go sit with your dad and we'll make him feel better. And my son goes, oh, no, I know what makes him feel better. He brought my phone to me. He handed me my phone. And there was a few of those moments that I've unfortunately experienced it myself. It was like I couldn't breathe, like I had to walk outside and go, oh my God, what the hell am I doing wrong? He thinks my phone has more value than him. So I had to reevaluate my, living and my lifestyle and the way I want it to be. And as you know, I'm a techie person. Just to kind of confess some of my, stuff. That's no big deal. But I mean, I was the first one who made the first computer program to run martial arts schools, then did the web version, they did the website. Then, I'm a techie person, but I tell you, I'm getting away from tech. I mean, like I'm just, I think it's a crab, it's a poison that's holding me back, you know, and not allowing me to have private victories in the name of public victories. And I
Hmm.
personally tell you, I could care less about public victories anymore because they don't mean shit. I lost beautiful relationships, including my ex, because I just didn't have my priorities right, or students, or because you just this is just a never ending hole. The whole
Well,
tech thing.
I think a lot of us that watch this and listen to you have had similar experiences. I mean, I know that there are often times that I out of nowhere I will notice that you know all I have two children and my wife, and we're all sitting in the same room, and it's very quiet, and I go, it's so peaceful right now. But then I look around and I realize that it's peaceful because we're all on our phones.
Yeah,
We're all on the couch
yeah,
and the TV's on
yeah,
and we're all on our phones. So I think we're all guilty of that. Social media, as we talk about it a lot, is that instant gratification, the likes and the views and the what's going on, because you don't want to be left out. I mean, I have my daughter is 19, my son is 17, and you talk about FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, and what kind of stress the kids go through because of social media and because of what's going on. I mean, I know that I feel it. I see an event going on halfway around the world or in another place in the country, and I'm going, oh man, maybe I should have been there. I'm not part of that, and we just get so
yeah.
caught up in the it just in that hole, like you said, that black hole. But again, this video here is meant to bring some light and some positivity. I've had some amazing guests and just super excited to highlight you as well, because I don't know if you know this, but the first time that I heard your name or even saw you was at a tournament, probably in the mid 80s, is when I saw you perform, and I just went, wow. I mean, I was super impressed then. And then it was years later that I got to know you a little bit more through the tournament circuit with Dan Anderson and Tom Bloom, Southern California Karate
Right.
Championships. Some
SCKL, right.
Yes, and I remember going to the tournaments, and I was a young kid, and I had known your name a lot. Then through Mr. Cox and your relationship with him, and then the Super Show, which I had come across you several times. So and we're not very far, but we have a lot of interwoven relationships. I've always had just a ton of respect for you because of all the people in this industry. If there was one person that I was going to say is the most selfless person, because you give everything away. You give so much information. You put so much out there, and I almost feel guilty at times when I borrow something, because you continue to give. There are very few people in our industry that are like that, because there are so many on the other end that want to sell this or sell that or promote themselves or what have you. I just wanted to let you know that, just right off the back, that I've always had a lot of respect for
Oh,
that
thank you.
attribute that you have.
Thank you. And that's just something that the only way to grow is to give it, man. We don't live long enough, and there's no secret in what we do. Everything is out there. It's just a matter of literally just doing it. you know but my journey has been, I'm getting rid of stuff. For years I collected so much stuff, and now I'm at the stage I'm getting rid of stuff. I'm getting rid of literally technical stuff, knowledge stuff, and and being a teacher as we are, it's a big trap, because this whole Miyagi concept was a great thing for Karate Kid, but it put a kind of a weird responsibility and a white elephant that we have to be like Miyagi, like we have to know everything, we have to make shit up, and even if you don't know it. So people started doing that. People started acting like they know everything, and because we're supposed to be that,
Mm-hmm.
and then then I realized after having like Sensei Benny, people, there's one thing about me that I'm sure you know, but I've had the pleasure and honor. I've literally have trained with the best in the world, literally. If
Hmm.
there was something out there that somebody could do, I went and paid it or did whatever I had to do to learn it firsthand. And so fortunate to have people like Sensei Benny here, or have association with Ron Balicki as far as Filipino martial arts, or people like that. And I tell you, these people, are the masters of what they do. Like Sensei Benny is a master teacher who, I teach out of theory. I'm very clear about what I teach. I don't have fight experience. I've not been never in a ring. Nobody's ever faced me and wanted to face my, take my head off. Well, except a couple people. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
but Sensei Benny comes from that. So when he challenges me into, why do you teach this? What does that mean? Or what do why do you do it? In a very polite way, And and that has caused me to like challenge my point of reference about everything,
Hmm.
about everything I used to think is the truth. And it's not the truth.
Right.
And the truth is actually, pretty simple. Anyway, so talking about being a teacher, the trap of it is we think we have to be perfect. So we start looking perfect, and we're after looking perfect, that we forget the people who pay the price of us being perfect is our families, is our close people, close friends, because we have this thing like pedestal, I have to be this thing, versus, hell with that, you got to be authentic, you got to be the
Hmm.
real you, and people like it, great. If they don't, great, but Sensei Benny really helped me with that, to just find out, who I am, and be that way. Uh, the greatest way for me to teach my kids not to use the phone is not to use the phone.
Right.
It's not telling them. It's not pulling their phone away. It's not, any of that stuff. Because my natural thing is to preach. Oh yeah, you should be, no, whatever. I used to do, school in the snow, and the bullshit like that. Versus the only thing I can do is not to use it myself, and that causes a little bit of, oh, what's going on? And that's all I need. And the
Hmm.
next time will be a little bit more, and next time it'll be a little bit more, and I think that's what it's all about. Is if really a teacher, you're going to be an example, right? In every freaking way, and having that distinction between being a coach, being an instructor, and being a teacher. Having that distinction between the three, I think, is so important. Just like, in my school, you don't come in and become a student. You're a customer. And after a while, when we get to know you, there's more personal relationship. You become a client. And only after a long time, you have that title of being a student, right? And I justify that in the name of, customers always right. So if you complain, we'll take care of it. Doesn't matter what it is,
Hmm.
because the customer is always right. When you're a client, what's a different story? The language is a little bit different, and when you're a student, that's a whole different thing. Like if there's a piece of trash on the floor, a customer will come to me and point the trash and say there was a trash over there. Well, if there's a
Hmm.
client, they will pick up the trash, come to me and say, I did this, I put it away. But if it was a student, you pick it up, put it away without even saying anything. You know what I mean? So, but that degree of beingness, has to be, shared with people. You know what I mean?
I, I love that, and I think that I've heard you say this before, but that distinction is pretty clear and pretty spot on. A lot of school owners struggle with that. They have someone walk in their school and immediately it's almost like a slave mentality, that you should do this, you should do that, and like you said, telling them isn't going to lead the way. Showing them and creating that culture, and that's something that you've been just amazing at. And a lot of the things that we do in our school, I've borrowed from Mr. Cox, who in turn borrowed it from you. Our black belt promotion ceremony, the way that we do the ceremony, and not only the ceremony but the process, the 6 month process that we go through. A lot of people, my students may not know, but it directly came from you, and just that whole culture, I think, is so important, because there's something, so much deeper in what we teach and how we do it in our schools. And I'm really happy that you brought up the whole Miyagi syndrome, as you called it, because I have struggled with that so many times in my career, that I had to have the look, I had to have the talk, I had to have the image, and it wasn't really until I became more authentic and I accepted myself that I noticed, wow, people will really buy into real and not just the this is what I'm supposed to be. And I don't want to think that I faked it, but maybe I did, but because I thought that's what I was supposed to do.
Right.
Right. But the fact that you brought that up, I know that many martial arts school owners really struggle with that. High ranking black belts struggle with just, what am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to be? And it is a very fine edge sometimes for us. It's a
Right.
struggle for
Well,
sure.
I mean, that's the whole struggle, right? It's about being, not doing. I think we are human beings. We're not human doings, you know. So
Hmm.
the challenge is we always try to do stuff, you know,
Right.
constantly trying to do stuff. And here's a good one, you know, we always try to do extra stuff. I know I did with my relationships, you know, I always try to do extra stuff. But it took me so long to understand that what's the definition of extra? It's after you've done what you're supposed to do, then you do extra stuff. Well, the
Hmm.
problem is I never did what I was supposed to do, but man, was I good at doing extra stuff.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And then you end up with a broken relationship. You end up with a broken trust, or you end up with, you know, it's broken. You know, and now I'm all about, you know, be real, be authentic, and and just be yourself. We have such a short. We're here to live, to learn, to love, and leave a legacy, right? And what's our legacy? What is that going to be? It's not going to be a jump spinning hook kick. You know what I mean?
Right.
And truly love. I mean, it's because English is kind of a funny language. I mean, I'm Persian, and and English is such a weird language because, you know, I love this pen, I love the monitor, I love coffee, and I love my child. And it's like, wait a minute, these are all different things, you know, different beings, and you know, you can't love. This is not the same thing, you know. But in English, you just call them all the same thing. I love doing this. I love this, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or the other one is I am. Like people say, I'm hungry. Well, I'm not hungry. I'm Fariborz. I feel hungry, you know. Or here's a good one. I'm stupid. Oh, you were stupid. You're slow. You know. Well, no, no, no. You're not stupid. You know. You know. That's not you. You know. And so the I am concept is huge. So I try to really work on my language. You know that I'm not strong. Again, I'm Fariborz. I feel strong. You know what I mean. And once I do that, then I can separate and just work on this one thing. So when I attack people, especially my kids, I'm very clear about, I'm going to attack your behavior. I'm not going to attack you as a person. So I won't say stuff like, you know, you're really lazy, you know, because they're not lazy. You know, my daughter's Layla. She's Layla. She's my daughter. You know, she's acting lazy. The behavior is not acceptable. What you did here, you know, is not cool. But I love you to death. Don't ever forget that. I don't like you, right? I don't like what you did and your behavior, but I do love you. And
Hmm.
once that's taken, once that's understood, it's a whole different level of beingness. You know, that I don't need to do more. I just need to be more and sometimes be less, right?
Hmm. I remember, I think it was 2000, maybe 2012, 2014. I'm not sure of the year, but you came and taught a seminar for us with the American Tong Soo Do Alliance with all of our Tong Soo Do schools. And I remember very distinctly someone saying, "I'm confused," or I'm lost. And you stopped and you asked their name and you said, "You're not lost. You're not confused. You're," what their name was. I remember that very distinctly and very clearly, and I've taken that with me. I've actually used this several times with my children as well, where I've said, it's not how I feel about you, your behavior.
Yeah.
Just like you said, I that resonates so much with me because that's so important, because it feels so differently too. If I tell
Right.
you that you're lazy or you're disorganized or you're not being, you're not responsible instead of you're not acting responsible, you're not behaving in a responsible manner.
Right.
Such a huge difference, that language, and I agree with you 100%. Can we go back a little bit, and
Yeah.
before we get too deep into the conversation, you were born in Tehran, Iran,
Right.
correct? And
Right.
can you tell me about your childhood a little bit?
Well, I left. Here's another coincidence. October 4, 1979 is when I came to the United States. So
Oh.
today is actually an anniversary of that and Facebook being down. So there's got to be a coincidence here somewhere. Anyway, no, I was um, I was I was brought up without a father. Maybe that's one of the reasons I try so hard to be a good father now. My dad died when I was less than 6 months old, and my mom was very young. She got married very young, so I'm the youngest one of six kids, and my dad passed away when my mom was 28. So with six kids, so I grew up with very strong female role models in my life, and then I just went to school. I took some martial arts. I was exposed to Japanese systems, mainly Shotokan in Iran. I did a little bit of it. Then, when the revolution started, with the whole hostages thing happened, I left the country. My mom knew there's something going on, and she wanted me out, which was very good of her to do that. Hold on a second. This is my daughter.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's sweet. So today was the sixth anniversary of Layla's black belt test. My
Oh,
daughter.
awesome.
So I send her this text saying, "Happy 6th year anniversary of your black belt. You still amaze me every day, and I'm so proud of who you have become." So she wrote back saying, "Oh, I love you. Thank you for that."
Oh, I love it.
Anyway, yeah, this is getting a little mushy now. That's why I needed these tattoos. I need to make myself look like a badass. Like people don't think I'm all mushy stuff. Anyway, so I came here like I said in '79. I think it's 78 to '79. Then I was in Torrance. Hold on one second. I'm going to answer this really quick. Layla John, I'm going to call you back. I'm doing a podcast. Yes, of course. I'll call you back. Okay, so there's how smart she is. So she's saying there's a guy outside our house, and she doesn't know who it is. So she wants me through the camera, look to see what's going on, and so
Once more technology, right?
yeah, but
You can see it.
yeah, but here's an example, because I could easily ignore this and thinking that what we're doing is more important. But you and I both know what's happening with her is more important than all this together,
Yes, sir.
right? And
I have my wife texting me right now as well.
yeah,
I'm surprised my daughter isn't all day long.
yeah. So I'm going to tell her that everything is cool. Okay. Anyway, so sometimes the kids, by the way, this is their version of saying, "Dad, I need attention,"
Yes.
right? And wives do this also, and husbands do this also, and for us to be clever enough to understand that, and because if you don't, they'll they'll shut your emotional bank account. If you make too many withdrawals, like that, you know
Hmm.
what I mean.
Hmm.
But we constantly need to do deposit. Anyway, so I came here. I did my first system I took was Thai Mantis, or praying mantis, in Torrance with Cam Yuen, which is I ended up actually meeting a couple years ago at the Martial Art Museum after all these years. Then I came to the Valley, and by luck, I found the Hapkido School with Steve Sexton, and I was just in love. My whole thing was the Bruce Lee thing. Was like most people, The whole thing started with that. But I was exposed while I was going to the martial arts with Steve Sexton. I was where I was used to work called Peck Sales. They had introduced me to series of seminars. One of them was called PSI, which stood for People Synergistically Involved, and they're still around. Then was EST, then it was the Forum, then it became Lanyard, and it became LifeSpring. So for a good 15 to 20 years, I was very involved in these self-development seminars, where Tony Robbins was all about behavior and external and how your state is. These seminars were all about building heart, who you being. And that's where I started mixing that with the martial arts and came up with the whole black belt process, or the way we do things. So none of the stuff that I'm doing, I've created, I've made up. It all been around for years because they're principle based, and that's one thing I'm really proud about. Our system here, even though it's traditional Hapkido is supposed to be, there's nothing traditional about it. But what I am proud about is that it's principle based, which means it's not behavior or opinion based. So, and in our curriculum, we have stuff that are principle based, which means, and I got that from parkour, because taking my son to parkour class in Northridge, it's amazing. They had 3,000 boys. They had 3,000 boys between the ages of 11 and 14.
Wow.
Right. Now, when we're talking about a school with 200 students, we're like, oh, that's a lot of people. No, this place has 3,000 of them. No calls, no retention, no. They just come and just drop the money, Like, I'm going, how the hell do they do this, And no intros, no nothing. I mean, they've never heard of the business, but they're doing wonderful, And I'll tell you the one thing it was, parkour is very principle based. You either make this trick or you don't. There's no, well, he's a good kid, he's had enough classes, or you know what I mean? And
Yes.
the parent sees it. Hey, it's about jumping over this vault. If you do it, you pass. If you don't, you don't. So when the first test came for my son and he failed it, he had a smile on his face, and the coach was like, "Hey, high five! You did a great job, man. You got to work on this one. The safety vault was good, but we got to work on your speed vault. Da, 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 da." And he failed the test, and I left, and I go, "Oh my God, if this was my school, people would be pissed." Marshall, you know what I mean?
Right. Oh yeah.
Right. Versus, so that's where I got the idea, and I said, you know what? I need more principled, centered curriculum that. Like, to give you an example, first of all, push-ups, teaching, and I got this from CrossFit. After I went through CrossFit certification, I understood push-ups. I understood what midline stabilization is and how terrible it is for us to associate it to a punishment, like if you're late or whatever, you know what I mean? But to teach that correctly, in my opinion, 99% of people don't know how to do a correct push-up. And we make people do 100 of them. What? People have a hard time. An average adult cannot do 5. You want them to do 100? You know how bad it is to go halfway, or it's called a push up. It's not called a push down. So you're supposed to flat on the ground, then you push yourself up, and you go down or rest at the bottom. Don't rest at the top because it's called push up. It's not called push down. You know what I mean? And the whole idea of the breathing. Or breathing to your nose, breathing out, keeping your core strong, and understanding the push-up is not an arm workout, it's a core workout, it's a body workout, or same thing as pull-ups, to keeping yourself tight, and to adding those into the curriculum really made a huge difference, because kids were like, oh, that's what a push-up is, you know what I mean? Or that's the reason why. And the other is because you can't fake it. You can't fake it push-up. No way. I mean, good luck. You can, it's like, a lot of people think I can break the law. You can't break the law. You can break yourself against the law, but you can't break the law. You know what I mean? These are principles that have been around. I'll tell people, here's gravity. If I let go, it's going to fall. I don't have to like it. As a matter of fact, I don't even have to know about it. It operates without me even, it's a principle called gravity. Right? So when you teach jump kicks, you teach people the power of the jump comes from your quads. The power comes from this, the lifting yourself from the arm. But most people jump and bring their neck down, so they crush themselves. That's where they can't jump. But if you look at the ballerina jumping, they always teach them to pull their hair up when they jump, so it's very elegant. And I'm like, oh, I should use that in jumping, teaching jump kicks. You know what I mean? Or the principle of flexibility. Splits have nothing to do with being flexible. Anybody can, people can do splits, but that became a measure of, oh, this guy can do splits, oh, whatever. But they're not flexible. The body's not strong, flexible. The shoulder is not flexible. The joints are not flexible. But just because the hip bone is flexible, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So flexibility became, we got to do that. If you want to become flexible, as you know, you should stretch after a class, not before a class. I think most
Well,
students, but
yeah, I was just gonna say, it was just recently that that something was tested. We were doing a seminar with Nathan Carlin, and I know you know Nathan, and everybody's concerned about flexibility, right? But he has one person, go down to the splits as far as they can, right? And they could go they're well past 90, right? He says, okay, well now all I want you to do is I want you to stand with your feet together, and I want you to lift your leg as high as you could. It had nothing to do with the flexibility of that person being able to kick. It had to do with the strength of not being able to get that leg to where it needed to be. So it's as I'm listening to you talk about all these principles, I'm hearing how they've kind of transcend to other people, and I think that it's great that we think about those things as we're teaching. Talk a little bit more about how you develop the culture within your school, because I know that you have a strong family culture and a very tight unit in your school. Where did that come from, and how did you build that?
um, again, going back to, I started backwards. I said, what do I want my black belts to know? What do I want them to be? How do I want them to be? And I wrote the curriculum backwards.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do that to set them up for success? And it was very clear that we're not a gym, we're not a fight gym. You know what I mean? And so even though we do teach, how to spar, but we don't, so people like that won't last. And I'm very upfront about people calling and going, hey, do you teach this? Or do especially cage fighting or grappling, anything like that? I tell them, no, down the street, Jean-Jacques is down the street. If you want to learn grappling, man, this is the best. You want to learn taekwondo? First of all, do you know what taekwondo is? If they say yes, I go, hey, Simon Rhee's, well, he closed, but I would have said, hey, he's down the street, go, so we became this, we're real. I'm going to help. I'm here to help. And sometimes we're not the solution for you. We're not the right place for you. And if we're not, I'll guide you to other places that you can go and get your, get your fix, or do, whatever you want. But I just stopped being, I stopped selling. I didn't feel like I needed to sell. I think I wanted something that when you come here, you sit down and watch a class, there'll be a part of you going, I love this, and I have no idea why. I love this. I want to take that class. I want to jump out there. I want to do this with them. You know what I mean? But I didn't want a culture where different color uniforms do this and different belts do this. You can't do something till you're at this rank. You know what I mean? I think most of the martial arts technical stuff that martial artists do are not based on correct progression of moves. They're done because they blame their tradition, but it's not tradition. They just learned it that way, and they still teach it that way. So for me, a lot of times it's been, what's the purpose of doing this? It's funny because I just had a thing with today at 11 with Joey Escobar. He was here, and we're doing some coaching for him. And I'm looking at his curriculum, which is same as yours. It's kind of a Tang Soo Do, American Tang Soo Do. And my whole thing was, first of all, I don't know your system, but my question is, what's the purpose of this? Why what if you want him to learn how to keep your hands up, why do you teach him to put the hands down? That's the first thing. I don't, it's kind of a counter thing. Like, I don't understand why you do that for, and here's a big one. 98% of a street fight ends up with a big right hand or overhand right. Most curriculums don't cover that. So for me, it was like, wait a minute, an average student is with me for about 6 months. So I got to make sure during the 6 months, at least to have some knowledge of basic self-defense, And why don't we address that? Why don't we address the big overhand right? Because that's what happens. Nobody throws a jab. Nobody definitely don't stands in the front stance and step into a right punch, So, and people I think are more educated now because they see the cage fighting, they see UFC, right? So UFC was the best thing, the worst thing that happened to martial arts, right? Because
Mm,
it took away some of the mystical, whatever, but it also took away some of the, the respect, the attitude, the, sportsmanship, in my opinion. Um, anyway, but people are much more, educated now. They'll go, hey, we don't see that, in the cage, So, and the first thing, like we don't, as teachers, we don't prepare students for predictable questions. Predictable questions will be if the kid is taking a lesson first week, he loves to go home and tell everyone. Well, why do you think that person who tells him that uncle is going to say? Very predictable question, which is, show me something.
mhm,
And we don't prepare the kids for that. It happens every time. Oh, dad, my dad's I just started doing karate. Great, show me something. What do you want him to do? Punch me or stand there and you know what I mean? So
mm,
these are the stuff that we should be preparing our students for. Our predictable stuff that happens, right? So I see a lot of kids, a lot of classes who they're doing classes and they do games at the end of the class, right? And my first question is, I don't have anything against playing games. Why at the end of the class? Because that's when the parent comes to pick them up. And if the parent comes in, pick up their kid, seeing they're running around, laughing, whatever, pretty soon, if they have to cut something out of their budget, they're going to say, oh, we'll just cut that out because all he does is go visit and plays. You know what I mean? It's the wrong
yes.
timing. It's a good
Hmm.
idea, but the timing of it is wrong, right?
Hmm.
So another predictable question. Every student leaves, gets in a car, and the mom says, what did you learn today?
Hmm.
It's a very predictable question that happens every time. So if
Hmm.
we don't prepare our students, guess what? Pretty soon it'll be like, oh, well, nothing really. We did the same thing. Pretty soon the mom goes, well, what am I doing this for? Do you know what I mean? So my whole thing is, again, going back to these are simple stuff, right? To come up with answers for these predictable stuff that happens
Hmm.
in the street, in confrontations, in, whatever. And so that's how this whole culture was, being built. And I'm not super successful at it, but it works. You know what I mean? The people that are coming up here, it works, and the message is getting across.
Hmm.
And but it's just not me because that's why I can't change my name to change the name of the studio to Team Karate Centers because it's a team effort. It's not just me. And
Right. What was the name? What was the name originally?
my name, Fariborz Azhakh Martial Arts Academy,
Oh,
the
okay. Okay.
chauvinistic, selfish, hey, you come here, I'm the man,
Right.
versus I change all that because it's not me anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what I do is not opinion based. It's principle based. And our system is principle based, and 90% of our technical stuff makes sense to a non martial artist. You know,
Right. And I think for me, what really changed our martial arts school the most, more than anything else, was when we had our own children go through the program. Both my kids started when they were 2.5 or 3 years old. Kind of messing around in our little dragons class at first, and I saw some of the things that we were doing and expecting from 3, 4, and 5 year olds, and I said, I watch my kids do it, and I'm like, this is not working. This is not setting them up for success. This is not building any skills. This is, even the fact that, I was a martial artist who thought that martial arts was the end all be all, and soccer, baseball, football, and any other sport under the sun could just take a back seat to what we did because what we do is the best. And I still feel that way, but in a different way because when my son started getting involved in sports and my daughter started playing soccer, we had to make changes in our schedules. We had to work around things, and you just see things from such a different perspective. And I think now seeing that bigger picture. I mean, again, I say this almost every time I bring up the story, but any of the parents that ever watched this when I was in my teens and early 20s that told me you'll see when you have kids, they were 100% right. And of course, I stuck to my guns and said, "Well, no, this is the way it should be." But then they were right. I learned a lot watching my children go through the program, and I'm sure that you did as well. So talk about talk about your kids a little bit, and talk about how they changed your school and how they changed your program.
Well, I mean, first was understanding that they became my priority. I don't know what the hell I was doing all day here before I had my kids, and couldn't wait to get here and do what. But um, each one of my first of all, I'm so fortunate for all three of them to grow up in this culture, because they're just first of all, they're great kids, like we all think of our kids, but they're not shy. They're confident. They know what they can do. They know what they can do. Um, they don't have to necessarily come here and do martial arts. My daughter Layla, she's 18 now. She's a great coach, and so she got her black belt 6 years ago today. But Arya, my son, that was he did a little bit, but his call was parkour, and now it's cars. He has his own passion. And Katana, my little one, does this, but her passion is more dance and volleyball. And my thing is, that's wonderful. But one thing I can tell you, all three of them, they look forward to coming here. It's never been a drag. Oh, we got to go to the studio to wait for daddy. Oh, okay, great. So they'll come and hang out with, they know everybody. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I think I'm proud about the most. They don't have to do this, and they don't have to carry my legacy. What a strong expectation I can put on my own kids. They don't have to do what I do, what I love. They have their own journey. And I support them in all ways. And so they don't have to have that burden, like I have to carry this name. And so that's not an issue for me, and I've made that very clear to them, that they don't have to worry about that. you know
Hmm.
so yeah, those are my
Yeah.
kids, man.
Yeah, it's different. I raised my children in the martial arts school very differently. My daughter, who is the older one, I made her do it, made her practice all the time, made her do private lessons all the time. She pursued dance a little bit more. She got her second degree black belt, and I was kind of crushed when she stopped training. But my son, I almost kind of looked at him and said, "Well, if you want to do it, cool, and if you don't, like, there's other things to do." And he's the one that's still training and still has a passion for it. He loves high school wrestling. Uh, Possibly pursue fighting or something else down the line, but just the attitude that I took was so different. I almost wish I could go back now. But I will say that we own a restaurant not too far from our karate school, and my daughter will come over here almost every single day and just hang out with daddy, or just stop in and say hi to all the students. And having grown up in the martial arts school, like you said, the confidence and just the ability to lead, and to be humble enough to know when they're not good at something. That's a pretty hard thing to understand, but just having them around. She helped us, and volunteered at an event that we did this week. So it's kind of neat. And who knows, because they're still 19 and 16, so they have
Exactly.
plenty of
You
time to
don't know,
do
right?
whatever they want to do. So it's just awesome. So let's talk a little bit about how COVID affected you, or how COVID didn't affect you. I think that it
Well,
affected everybody, right?
yeah,
But
COVID kicked our ass. I mean, for sure.
yeah.
But we survived, and my financially was the hardest thing for us. But um, I started doing privates, and people were very open to that, and so I did privates. I didn't really Zoom really didn't do its thing for us. We
Hmm.
didn't, it wasn't that big, but people came and helped. In the beginning of COVID, I did a GoFundMe page, and I didn't want to do it because a part of me was like, I don't want to, or whatever, But I tell you, you cannot believe. I mean, we got a lot of money, and we paid our landlord for a whole year up front with it. As a matter of fact, the landlord actually chipped in into the GoFundMe page. He didn't know, but all that money was really for him. And but you'd be amazed how many people reached out and thanked me for doing that, because now they could do something.
Hmm.
As you know, we have so many black belts and students who are out of country, out of town. They all felt like, are you kidding me? We're going to help. We're going to reach out. We want the studio to be there. So that was really nice. Then, then after that, we got some help through the SBA, which was wonderful, and so the programs that was offered, and now we're coming back. I mean, people are just, it's weird. We're getting a lot of new students, but the older ones are
Hmm.
not coming back yet. They're kind of like still, whatever. And but we're on our way back, and the landlord was really gracious, gave us a big break, and but again, we were upfront, we were honest. I shared my challenges, I shared my failures, and I shared my wins. You know, and being real. This is how it was, and it kind of it worked out. It worked out for the best. You
Hmm.
know, and so COVID was a hard thing for a lot of people, but in a lot of ways for me it was a blessing, because again, I saw a lot of different blessings in there. Spending time with my kids. Um, Not that the divorce was a blessing. It was not a blessing, but just an eye opener in so many different ways. And for me to train again and reignite my own passion and love for the martial arts and different systems and studying, and open my eyes to other stuff. Spending a lot of time with Sensei Benny, or uh, just doing grappling or doing savat, or just see people, you know, just and just stop being, you know, pro- stop protecting what I know. I think that was the biggest thing, because I kept feeling like I have to protect what I know of, and if you don't agree with me, I have to prove it to you that I know more, or I'm, what I mean, or up you a little bit, and so I just stopped doing all that. You know what I mean? And I became open to whatever ideas, and everybody said, oh, drinking is no good. Well, yeah, for years I was like, drinking no good, but you know what? I'm taking wine classes now, and I want to learn about wine, because I tell you, it's some of the stuff that we think is bad. It's not necessarily anything excessive is bad. You know what I
Of
mean?
course.
And but I look back and I go, God, I missed the whole life. You know,
Hmm.
instead of being a martyr, oh, I dedicated my life into the martial arts. Yeah, but you missed a whole lot other stuff.
Right.
Like is an art being. It's an art to eat, right? It's an art. It's an art form to be able to eat. We take that so for granted, like it's nothing, or whatever. But I started taking lessons, and I'm still a badass. I just want you to remember that. But I do take, but but I do take cooking lessons. Um, but it's amazing because it's an art. It's an art form, and to be able to be mindful of doing whatever it is I'm doing, and what are the things I'm doing. You just do normal stuff. I read. I eat. How to sleep correctly. Learning that most people don't know how to sleep. They don't know how to rest. They know how to sleep, but they don't know how to
Mm.
rest, right? And going back to saying, what are the things I do every day that I suck at it? I don't even know why I do it. Is there a correct way? Is there a better way of doing what I always do every day? Then I made a list of all this stuff. Well, eating was one of them. Drinking was one of them. Walking was one of them. Working out was one of them. And all the little things. And I said, I want to become a master of those. The last thing I want to do is to learn 360 different version of a spinning hook kick. Like I'm done with all that. That's not my challenge anymore. I want to learn how to master the art of breathing. I tell you, a couple of years ago, I changed this. Before, when the students used to sign up with us, the first lesson was how to bow. Say hello. But you know what my first lesson is now? How to breathe. I sit with the kid and I hold their hand in front of the parent and I go, hey, buddy, look at me. We're going to breathe into your nose, then out from your mouth. So remember that, because there's going to be a lot of times where I'm going to ask you to breathe or take a breath. And I want you to breathe this way. I don't want you to, I want you to breathe to your nose deep, and you can see the dad and mom doing it. And they're like,
Hmm.
right? And I go, this is the lesson. This is what this kid is for. You know what I mean? I want connection before correction. right? I want to make a connection with this kid, right? And I don't need to teach him how to bow, even though that's great. He'll learn. I want him to learn how to put his shoes away, right? Those are the lessons that I want him to remember as a first lesson, you know.
Hmm.
And but I think the whole breathing thing is huge, man. It's huge, you know.
Well, it just goes to prove that what we do in our school has so much of an effect after they walk out the door. We only have them for 45 minutes to an hour at a time, and they're going to go outside the school. So if we can give them things, I love that you point out all these little things about putting the shoes away and just how to sometimes talk to their parents. I can't tell you how many times I've had to stop and have a conversation with children about how to respond to their parents. We teach them proper responses and why that's important, and looking people in the eyes, and those little things. We got all the forms and we got the combinations and the kicking, punching, sparring, but they're going to meet people outside of the school. They're going to shake hands with people. They're going to look them in the eyes. They're going to dress, more appropriately and take care of themselves and think about those things. And those are the things that last
Mm.
so long. I'm sure that you have black belts and students that come back to visit you, and I'll bet that the things that they tell you they remember the most are not their
Oh yeah,
form or
yeah.
not their self defense. It's I have one student in particular who tells me this story. He's a high school football coach, and he will come to me, and it's a running joke because every time he sees me, he goes, "I still remember you took my belt away." And the reason I took his belt away because he was talking back to his mom, and I hung it on my door, and I said, "When I know that you can talk to your mom in a more respectful manner," and the mom loves it. She still talk. I mean, we're talking 25 years ago, and this is still the lesson that he remembers is not talking back to his mom or being disrespectful to his mom, not the 5,000 other techniques we worked on. It's just so powerful, and I always listen to you talk about these things, and I'm in awe a lot because I go, yeah, those are the things that are important. Those are the things to focus on. Is the little things are important.
Oh,
Um,
it's always about the little things. Always. I can't tell you. It's always about the little things. You know, big things are great, but little things are,
mhm. Yeah, and I love how you said connection before correction, because it's something that I feel is so important. Being connected with our spouse, being connected with our children, our family, and being connected with our students, clients,
yeah.
customers, right? Connection is so key, because when people trust you and people feel safe with you and people feel that you're being honest with them, they're much more likely to be receptive to what you're offering. That connection
Absolutely.
is super super important. It's one of the things that I really think about a lot with my staff members, my team, my instructors. I mean, just like you, most of my instructors have been with me since they were children, and it's like, well, why are they still here?
Yeah,
It's the
exactly. Right.
connection. It's the connection. It's that personal, they'll tell me stories all the time. I remember when you told me this or taught me that, or you believed that I could step up and teach and lead. It's just, it's super powerful. And like you said, with COVID affected everybody, but the difference is how we allowed it to, what we did with it. Did we reflect and build, or did we crumble and kind of sink and just wait for it? And I think a lot of people, whether it was doing Zoom or doing private lessons or going and teaching outside, the leaders in our industry really found a way to make it continue to happen, make it work. We were very fortunate, and you as well. We're still open. I've heard a stat that anywhere from 30 to 35% of martial arts in the United States closed permanently because of COVID. That's a drastic number, and it makes me sad because that's 30% of those schools now are no longer teaching children to do what we love and what we're everything we're talking about here. That
Absolutely.
overall impact. And you talked about legacy. Talk about the legacy of your school and what you hope to see continue happening as the years go on.
Like I said, um, my greatest legacy is going to be my kids. Obviously, um, then it's going to be the close relationship that I have with few people. then it's going to be my schools, and it's going to be the impact that I've had in the martial art industry. Some good, some bad, but those are the stuff. It makes me feel good when I see people like yourself who chose to participate in the black belt testing program. Even though I didn't really make it, I orchestrated it. I put it. You know what I mean? But some of the stuff was already there again because they're principle based. But it makes me feel good. It makes my heart warm thinking, oh my God, they're using it. And I don't need a credit for it. I don't, even though you and Mark has always been gracious enough, you always give credit. But I don't need that. I just love the private victory of it, to be able to say, hey, I had something to do with that,
Hmm.
or open their eyes. Now they're seeing something a little bit different. And I think that's the impact that I want to have on the martial art industry, is that we are an industry, we're the only industry that we can teach people how to be mindful, and we do that through movements. We teach motivation, and I mean meditation through action, and we're the only industry that can save our kids and our youngsters of being. It's like I always tell them about myself, and I want you to listen to this carefully. I'm all for peace. I love peace. I live it. I preach it. But I'm not against violence. And it's kind of a weird thing, because people say, what do you mean, whatever, and I'm telling you, I think through studying violence, you appreciate peace, and that's what we do. You know what I mean? And that's what we teach. So we provide that opportunity for people to get that out, especially for men, because most men, as there's something gets released after the man is wrestling around or fighting. They just feel better about themselves.
Hmm.
So we have all these vehicles, all these moves that we can do, but we need to open their heart. We need to open their eyes into what being a man is. I think that art is being gone. The art of being a man, obviously, because I'm not a woman, so I don't have that point of reference. Nothing against women, but I think the art of being a man is going away by so many expectations that are placed upon what we as men supposed to be, or supposed to do, or supposed to look like. You know what I mean? And if we go back to that, essential, what it is, I think it will create peace. And when we have peace in my heart, I can have peace with my neighbor. And if I have peace with my neighbor, I can have peace with Europe and with Middle East. You know what I mean? But if I cannot take care of the little peace that I have with myself or with my neighbor, how the heck am I going to have an opinion about how Middle East should run? You know what I mean? Because it's just got to start with me, you know, and to
Hmm.
challenge my students when they get angry to stop and be mindful. That we say, namaste. The good part in me sees the good part in you, right? But it's also the opposite that's true. And I tell people that the ugliness in me sees the ugliness in you. So when I see something you're doing wrong and I pick on it, it's really the ugliness in me, right? So it's a constant, let's be aware of what I'm seeing, and be peaceful. I don't have to do things peaceful. I just have to be peaceful. But that peace have to be with me first, and then at my house, then at my studio. I think I had that backwards. You know what I mean? And I had paid a heavy price for it. I lost a beautiful relationship, and because I didn't set my priorities right. And looking back, that's what there's some of the things that I would do differently.
Hmm. Hmm. I think we said at the very beginning too. What we see what we're looking for, right? I mean, if we're looking for good, we will see good. If we're looking for bad, we're going to see bad. But that's pretty powerful. I know you talk about that theory of namaste and what you see. I think that's important for people to hear, and that yes, it all starts with us. The video. The reason I wanted to have a podcast was let's put more positive out there. Let's put more good out there. And let's talk about it, because listen, we've talked about your divorce. We've talked about the bad things, or some of the downside to some of our actions. The whole thing with the phones. I mean, everything is not always perfect, but our vision sometimes gets blurred for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Well, listen, I did tell you we're going to go about an hour today, and we're right there at that hour mark. So I want to be mindful of your time, and I appreciate you, just
Thank you
jumping
so
on
much.
here and having the conversation. It's been a lot of
Absolutely.
fun, and I hope that you do put a lot of great things out in the industry. I know you don't necessarily need the credit or want the credit, but I see it a lot. Having been around for a little bit, being part of several groups online. I mean, I just see you throwing stuff out there, and people grab it, and there's some people are information collectors, right? But never, you talk about this, but never really put it into play, right? There's never any implementation, and I think if anybody was able to implement even a small percentage of what you put out there, they're going to be a lot better off for it. So just again, thank you for being that person that continues to put
Oh, you're
things out
welcome.
there, and for allowing us to see things differently. We don't always have to agree. Not everybody is going to agree with you or with the way you do things, but at least it opens our eyes, because we don't know what we don't know, and unless we have someone else point things out and look in a different direction, I just think that it's wise to be open, at least to learning and understanding before we discard it,
Absolutely. Well,
right?
thank you for the opportunity, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Well, wishing you all the best. Hope to talk with you again soon. Can
Yes,
you give
sir.
me just 30 seconds here at the end? If you're looking directly at the camera and you're talking to anybody that's listening, can you give me just 30 seconds of just one last quick, powerful motivation for people that are watching?
Um, yes. So that's something that I've been working on for the last month, going through therapy, and that's been, today truly is the first day of the rest of our life, but it also could be the last day, and to be really try to be mindful of our behavior towards our loved ones, not our action necessarily, but just our behavior, and allow them to understand where we're coming from, and show them unconditional love. So being the first day and the last day of our life, what life is way too short. It's already passing by. So just be mindful and be more. You don't necessarily have to do more.
Love it. Very, very profound. And I'm going to take that to heart and think about that today. I appreciate you for being on with us today. Look forward to catching up with you again soon. And for those of you that are watching and have finished with us today, please do me a favor and share the video so more people could hear this message from Sensei Fariborz. Thank you
Thank
again,
you.
sir, and have a great day.
Bye.
All right, bye, guys. See you next week. See you on Monday at noon with our next guest on the Master Motivation Show. Take care, guys.